Mulliganing aggressively makes a lot more sense in these matchups where the person who loses is likely to die with cards in their hand. It's not an attrition-oriented matchup.
Yes.
It's, do you have your stuff? And so you have to be very aggressive. There's some matchups, especially when you're playing against decks with Thoughtseize and Hymn to Torak, where raw card count is the thing that matters. You keep sketchy hands because you have to just endure the attrition battle. This is not that kind of game.
Wilkerson's going to start with a Scalding Tarn for an island. And now this is a Ponder. So Manipulation shows Force of Will, Flooded Strand, and an Omniscience. So that's a good start for our standard open champion. And his is, okay, we're being informed this is his only loss in the Swiss today, is Thomas Hake. So maybe a little revenge factor. Resolve the Ponder, bring the Force to the hand, pass it back. Hake will draw his card for the turn. Let's see what he's got.
And we had Thomas on camera as well, who lost to Hayden, surprisingly. Did Thomas keep a no-lander after a mulligan?
Uh-oh.
I mean, that must be a mighty good no-lander.
I mean, that means that he's got Forcible on a blue card, but that doesn't mean that that's good enough. See, 2 cards are going to go to the bottom here for Wilkerson. Puts Omniscience on the bottom, draws a card immediately.
I mean,
to Flooded Strand.
To keep that kind of hand even after a mulligan, we got to be looking at something like Force of Will, blue card, Entomb Reanimate, or some, you know.
Something completely busted. And discards Iona. All right, this is starting to make more sense.
Yep. I can dig it.
Yep. He just needs to try to make it to the next turn.
You know, if he has no way to get that Iona in the graveyard, it's possible he's missing land drops on purpose.
That's
true. Not impossible.
This is true. Here's a Brainstorm. Hit 1. Dream Halls. Blue card, blue card. Time to put 2 back. City of Traders there. Don't know if he has a show and tell. That's the big question. See Gataxian Probe. There is a show and tell there, actually.
And he has a 2-mana land as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of Force of Wills.
Yes.
So we could be seeing some fireworks right now.
Question is, does he need to go for it right now? I think the answer might be yes. Not positive, but I think the answer might be yes.
I mean, there's a possibility that Thomas is intentionally missing land drops, and you could be looking at some discard next turn, another draw step for him to find Force of Will, another piece of disruption. I mean, this is a pretty good spot. He's got, I believe, multiple copies of Force of Will at this point, plus show and tell, plus a kill. So I can't imagine finding a much better spot.
Flooded Strand going to search out the basic island. And he does have the City of Traders, so as you mentioned, it might be time for fireworks. All right, we're moving in. Time for show and tell.
And again, you know, Tyler doesn't even have to play around Iona being show and tell to play.
And that begs the question, is it good to discard Iona there? Force of Will going to force back. Because if he just has Iona in his hand, Tyler can never cast show and tell.
Yeah, I mean, he still has to be conscious of Dream Halls, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Well, no, that doesn't really matter, right? Because I mean, he has to be conscious of actual, like, the Dream Halls kill.
Right.
But that just gives you more time to set up to get Iona in play. Here's a Gataxian Probe. Take a look. That'll be free, of course. Here's a hand. He just had no lands.
Okay.
Entomb, Reanimate, Daze, Brainstorm.
I don't think Tyler has the kill right now, though. I mean, I think he's able to cast things for free, and he has a lot of cantrips, of course, but he's still digging.
Take a draw. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't have it right now.
So
he's got to quicken it and land.
I mean, he's got to go for it this turn because there's a risk of just reanimate Iona.
Yeah,
that's
you're
it.
dead. That's it, yeah. He draws an island, so he does not have it.
Okay.
He passes the turn back, so he draws a land. That's it. Is it a land? He has to pass back. Wilkerson draws his card. Wow, this is insane.
Yeah. Oh.
He has to pass. Hake draws a card. He hasn't drawn a land or a petal this entire game.
This is insane.
Wilkerson draws a card.
It's not a land.
Strand.
City of Traders is gone, yeah.
Hake? That's a swamp. That is a reanimate target Iona. That's insane. Oh my gosh. Thomas Hake is going to win game number 1. Plays no lands for the first 7 turns of the game and wins game number 1 over Tyler Wilkerson with an Omniscience in play. Waiting to draw a card to go off. Doesn't find one. A ton of outs. We're bringing it back to us.
Oh,
Man,
Legacy.
Legacy is so good. Legacy is so good. Premium time for you guys at home. Of course, get your Twitters ready at SCG Premium, hashtag SCG Live. This guy's going to ask you a question. We'll announce the winners at the conclusion of the semifinals. It's going to be tough to top that game. I can tell you that much. Fire away.
Thomas, our reanimator player in the top 4, has a variety of reanimation targets in his main deck. One of them is a blue creature. Name that creature.
Name the blue creature that Thomas can reanimate. Hashtag answer SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live so we can get the prize over to you guys. We're going to bring it back to the match. Wow, that game was awesome. That game was so good. Let's go to the sideboards here. I guess we'll start with Wilkerson, I guess.
Well, as we've mentioned several times on the broadcast so far, Tyler's sideboard primarily devoted to Cunning Wish targets. So he has 2 copies of Defense Grid and 4 copies of Leyline of Sanctity he can bring in against Permission and Discard as appropriate. Then the rest of his sideboard is, of course, tutor targets, although in some matchups he can actually bring them in as singletons if he doesn't anticipate wanting to Cunning Wish for them, but wouldn't mind naturally drawing them in the game. For example, against Blue White Red Delver, he brought in 1 copy of Pact Negation. Not really a Cunning Wish target in the matchup, but certainly a card he wouldn't mind drawing to battle through some Force of Will battles. So I think there's a chance the Pact comes in, for example. I'm not sure if he really wants to go as far as to bring in Leyline or Defense Grid, even though Thomas has counterspells and discard, because there actually isn't that much of it going on in the deck.
On Hake's side, 2 Python Needle, an Equal Leviathan, an Ashen Rider, 1 Terracodon, 4 copies of Leyline of the Void, 2 Echoing Truths, 2 Massacres, 2 copies of Show and Tell. Oftentimes when you're playing as a Show and Tell deck, you don't bring in your own. So I would not do that here. Massacre, not going to be useful. Leyline of the Void, not going to matter. A Terracodon's okay, as is an Ashen Rider. Those cards are just okay, though. There's nothing really very exciting about those. Inkwell Leviathan is fine, but again, it's all centered around Iona and Gristlebrand in this matchup, so you're not going to need that. And then those 2 Python Needles, they don't really do anything.
Yeah, Thomas still needs to keep in a saturation of reanimation targets, because sometimes he's trying to go off through careful study and not Entomb. He can't have so few reanimation targets that he just doesn't have stuff to discard to careful study. So you may see him, for example, bring in an Ashen Rider and a Terracodon to replace the Owlishthorn and maybe the Tidespread target if he doesn't want that. If he needs to keep a critical mass of reanimation targets. But again, I don't think you're going to see him doing too much dramatic sideboarding. I think certainly the Owlishthorn will be coming out and will be replaced by a new reanimation target, but I don't think you're going to see a ton beyond that.
Well, Hake was able to break serve, and remember, this is Wilkerson's only loss in the day is Thomas Hake. I can only imagine what the games in the Swiss were like if they're anything like the one we just watched.
Yeah, that game was, I mean, from that spot, Tyler is an incredible favorite because every spell in his deck, with the exception of Dream Halls, another copy
of Omniscience,
Show and Tell. Yeah. Most of the cards that he draws are either cantrips or cards that kill Thomas.
Yep.
So to miss for that many turns in a row is really unlikely.
Think of it this way, to be given that many turns in a row, Thomas just need to draw land.
Yes.
He can never draw land, which is insane. As Wilkerson is going to look at his opening 7 again, he's going to be on the play this go-around. So let's see what Tyler's able to put together here. His first hand last game was great. Able to put Omniscience into play, counter backup. He's going to send this one back. Hake will do the exact same. So both players going to start a little short-handed here.
And like you mentioned, a mulliganing aggressively is so key in this matchup.
Quick update for you guys. Lawrence Young does win game number 1 over David Winsour. Bug Delver up a game in the semis.
Not too surprising. You know, if you look at the Blue-White Red Delver deck, for example, or Rug Delver, which already have good matchups against ad nauseum, if you were asked what card would you add to your deck to improve the matchup further, I think Hymn to Torak would be very close to the top of the list. Liliana the Veil, also very good there. The discard spells like that, not good against every combo deck, but ad nauseum really about building up a threshold of spells. And so all 1-for-1 discard is reasonably effective against them.
Yeah, it's actually quite good.
As opposed to decks like this, where something like Liliana the Veil is unlikely to do very much.
Mulligan's favor anyone in this matchup? It seems like Hake is perfectly fine with mulliganing, where Wilkerson's deck, because it's a 3-card combo, mulliganing seems like it would be a little more detrimental.
Yeah, and there's... what's the discard? 2 Thoughtseizes, too? Trying to think. I think if both players went down to 0 cards, Thomas would be a favorite. So I assume symmetrical mulligans would favor Thomas.
Okay.
Thomas just needs less mana, less setup, less moving parts. I think if both players were just flipping cards off the top of their deck, I would take Thomas. So
Okay, fair enough. Tyler, happy? Still got that smile on his face he has all weekend. We're underway. That's a preordained to start. Island. Does he need lands? He's got a Flood Strand in hand, also has a Cunning Wish. He's going to keep one of them. Draw that island, pass the turn back to Hake. That's a Scalding Tarn. Going to start by sacrificing that. Hake going to go down to 19. Like I told him in this match, not very relevant for either player, honestly.
yeah, it can matter a little bit for Tyler because Thomas is going to be attacking him in multiples of X, where X is the power of the creature he eventually reanimates. But most reanimation targets are going to likely end the game or effectively end it. So it's a really fringe case where racing is a concept in this matchup.
Yeah. And now this is an Entomb. Oh, I know what I know what I would go grab.
I would try to go get Iona.
Yes. Shield of Emeria. Good choice. I miss bringing that thing back from the graveyard. Had a lot of fun with that in Dredge back in the day.
Telling you, man, just all you got to do is get to the Baltimore Open.
Well, I said I was going to go.
Right. You can do that all that you want.
All right. I'm glad I have your seal of approval. Here's a Cataxian Probe. Let's see what's going on.
Check out the damage here. Oh, just that. No big deal. Just force a will and reanimate on turn 2.
It's a good deck.
It's not bad. With the possibility of drawing a blue card and having double force of will backup. I mean, just your normal reanimator draw.
Yes. Is a good deck. I can tell you this much. Hake will be going for it next turn.
Right. I would imagine
Yeah.
so.
I think we are moving in, as it were. See a Quicken there in Wilkerson's hand. Hake will draw.
Is that another blue card?
There's an Underground. I think you gotta just make your move.
Yeah, this seems
Yeah.
like a
so
good spot.
safe. Not even a counterspell there for Wilkerson. He's gonna sacrifice.
He's going to quicken in response looking for something, but
I mean, this is a mulligan from Hake, by the way. This draw of Entomb, Reanimate, Force, blue card, Force. That's why, that's part of the reason I really like this deck. And, the thing that you mentioned, too, is that Reanimator is probably the fastest of the combo decks that, gets to play Force of Will and Disruption and protect itself. That's part of the reason that I like playing it at DC is just, you're faster than their combo decks. You're a little bit worse against the fair decks, but at the same time, you can just kind of push them over.
right.
Here's a Quicken from Wilkerson. He wants to make sure he knows exactly what this does.
Yeah.
Next Sorcery, huh? Why does that matter? Why is he gonna force this? Hello.
He must have drawn a blue card.
Yeah, I mean that's the only reason that's even possible, right? He says, I don't even want you to draw anything. He has to draw a blue card to go on with the other Force of Will. So Quicken gets countered. And that Ponder should be removed from the game. There's Iona. It's going to name blue.
So now the question is, did Tyler sideboard in his one Slaughter Pact?
That would be awesome.
That's his out here, right?
That's his only out. Hake going to draw a card. Tap for 7. Almost doesn't even matter what he draws, honestly.
Right.
See, Wilkerson's going to Soul Draw. No reason to concede. Something crazy could happen. Pass the turn back. Take a draw. That's a Scalding Tarn. And that is going to do it. Thomas Hake is going to win this match over Tyler Wilkerson. And the dream is dead for our Standard Open champion. No back-to-back this weekend, but hey, still one hell of a weekend.
Yeah, really impressive run there. Tyler's record, I think probably something around 23-3 over the 2 Opens this weekend. Has a trophy, top 4 finish, a ton of points too. And remember, we're really early in the season.